3, 2.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Witching Hour. This is Patti Negris. I am a psychic, medium, and good witch. You might recognize me from television, lots of different shows, including mostly Ghost Adventures on the Travel Channel, but I'm all over those little channel buttons. But what this is about, this audio show is about, is empowerment for you. To bring a little bit of magic into your everyday lives, into all parts of your life. We are powerful and amazing beings. And in my years of practice with people, I always kind of noticed that people gave their power away all the time. They give their power away to fear. They give their power away to other people. They give their power away to belief systems. So I thought, it's really easy to grab that power back. Why don't we do that? So, welcome to the Witching Hour, where in that little bit of magic, we bring ideas, thoughts, maybe perceptions, for how you can make your life just a little bit more fun, a little bit more productive, a little bit more empowered. I have a really amazing guest for you today. He's one of my dear friends, and from the second I met him, he would be one of those people I would call one of my bestie friends from the second I met him. You probably have people like that in your life, whether it's lifetimes knowing each other, which I think it might be little tribal lines together of folks, how we're connected. It might be aliens together, who's to know? But he is one of the dearest people I have ever met in my life, one of the most creative and original people I've ever met in my life. So I'm going to have on the show, and I am proud to welcome, but I'm waiting for a drum show. When you're married to a drummer, you need a drum roll. But please welcome my guest, Richard-Lael Lillard. Hi, Richard.
Hello, Richard-Lael, please.
Yes, Richard-Lael.
Sorry, it's a recent...
You don't want the last name part?
Richard-Lael is one name?
Yes, I know that.
And then Richard-Lael Lillard, but you said hello, Richard.
I did?
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh my goodness.
No, it's really fine.
I am so
it's
sorry.
For those of you who may be listening, it's a relatively recent addition, because for damn near, pardon my language, for near 40 years, I was called Richie, so people knew me as Richie. And then my father was named Richard, and he was such a good man. My father was a very good man. But it turns out that I just never really wanted to be called Richard. It just didn't quite. And I like Richard-Lael, and I thought, well, you know what? It's a name, and it's there, so why not use it? And I also feel that names have a lot of power.
Yes.
And so Richard is a great name, but I feel like it lacks. So with the addition of Lael, which is ancient Aramaic, it means, well, the first name is powerful ruler. Richard means powerful ruler. Lael is Aramaic, which means chosen of God. And the surname of Lillard is a derivative of heretic, witch, well, it was from Lollard, but heretic, witch, opposer of the standard faith, mumbler, spellcaster. So the full name, Richard-Lael Lillard.
That's pretty perfect, actually.
Thank you.
And I apologize for that, because that was really subconscious.
I know.
Because I've been pretty good at that
You have
recently.
been very good. It is subconscious, and like I said, it's a habit that...
Richard-Lael.
People say, well, it's a hard name to say, and I say, yes, but it's not really any harder than Elizabeth. Once you start saying it, Richard-Lael, it just flows.
It
so
flows
I'm not
beautifully.
offended. I just, for the listeners, I wanted to make certain that they knew it was Richard-Lael as well.
Richard-Lael. You're gonna love him, and you already do. I'm also having trouble, completely off topic, which we haven't even started yet, with new gender titles.
Oh, that is a difficult.
That is difficult. I'm all for it.
Sure.
No one needs to pick a gender, but they is hard. Not a he, not a she. A they, because I get it all mixed up with plural and singular.
It is a little difficult.
It doesn't sound correct.
I don't fully understand it myself. I am always for people expressing themselves however they wish to, of course. But it is a little difficult. It does take a lot of training. And most people, like with my name, they'll say, no, actually, I'm a they, or I'm a them, or I'm a whatever it may be. And then you go, oh, okay, I shall try. I apologize. And you move forward.
Yeah, it's just that plural thing I have to, because like, she is coming over.
Sure.
He is coming over. They is coming over. No, they are coming over. So you have to change all your wording around. It's like, oh, my brain's really slow sometimes.
It is a lot of thinking. Well, on that topic of sort of sexual fluidity, I don't mean to sort of to derail.
No, let's go there.
But
I love derailing.
Well, I for a long time I walked right in the middle, and I was always identified as male. And my mother is so funny. She's 80 years old, and she's really funny. But way back when I was in my teen years, she said to me one day, she said, "Honey, I feel like there are people who can be born physically male, but then if they get tested, they might find out they're actually more of a woman, and maybe you should." And for a very long time, I mean, had I have existed 20 years in the future, maybe I would have been. Now I'm really happy with myself. I love my body. I love who I am. I love that balance of masculine and feminine energy, and I'm perfectly comfortable with who I am now. But 20 years, had I been born 20 years later, who knows?
Yeah, I know. And I love the fluidity of it all. I actually was tested for all that because when I was, like, this is probably getting too personal, and again, off subject, but that's what we do. We'll just have you back over and over again. I had these, like, hormonal problems and stuff, and so they started testing me that if I was what they call now androgen insensitivity, if I had the right female and male, and actually I didn't have enough of either at the time. They were seeing if it was male testosterone, if they were, but I didn't have enough of that either. I just was hormoneless. But
well, I feel like the Native Americans would call people who were somehow transgender, or that term didn't exist, but they would call them two-spirit. So that you would have two spirits incorporating in one body. And I think there might be some weight to that, actually.
I think so too. And again, it's even in the animal kingdom.
Sure.
And again, so good it's open now that people can be who they are or who they choose to be. I had a dear friend, and then we'll go back to you. She was a pretty famous actress, and she was beautiful, known for her beauty. Actually, she won like the most beautiful girl in the world kind of contest.
Wow.
And when she first met me, they had put her on hormones like they had put me on hormones because, again, I was lacking everything. And she thought maybe she was the same. I'm DES exposed. It's a drug they gave in the 50s and 60s to pregnant women. And she thought that she was that. Maybe that's it, because she was put on hormones at puberty and things too. And then she found out at 40, and her mother hadn't told her, that she was actually born a male.
Wow.
But when that happened in the 60s, they always choose female. If you're not quite right one or the other, because it's easier to turn you into a girl than turn you into a boy. But her mother had never told her. Her mother, she took the hormones and knew she had to. And again, here's this beautiful woman. When you find out at 40 and you're married and you're the girliest girl you've ever met, that you're not or weren't really a girl, it totally messed her up.
I would say
for
so.
life, to the fact that it went into alcoholism and death.
Poor thing.
Yeah. So again, you have to handle things right.
Yes, people have to handle things too. And I don't know your friend. I don't know your friend's mother, and there were reasons, I'm certain. But really, honesty is the most important thing. I value honesty.
Yeah.
So to be honest with yourself and to be honest with those around you, I think it's paramount.
Yeah, somewhere in there, maybe 12. You're not the whole story, but once you hit like adulthood, young adulthood, you know why you're taking these drugs and stuff, to be kept from her for decades.
Well,
she didn't know who she was. It really
that
was.
Is,
it started out messing up her marriage, and she's like, I'm not even legally married. I mean,
right, because in
those days. So anyway, completely off subject.
No, but what a touching story, though.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story, and hopefully she's looking down from above, and was such a great spirit, and the 40 great years she had was great, and then she had I don't know, maybe 10 years of hell.
Wow.
And
poor
now
dear.
she's got eternity of happy. But speaking of crazy, we can again go into this towards the last part of this. We're going through a craziness now on our planet.
Crazy.
We are going
it is
through
a
a global time of uncertainty, a global time of confusion and fear, sadly.
Fear is overwhelming.
Fear is overwhelming, because now it's not just, are we going to get sick fear? Now it's, I don't have a job fear, or everything is shut down fear. So you too are a psychic medium. He's an intuitive. He's a fellow magical practitioner.
I used to be a psychic and a small, but I gained some weight.
So you're a small, medium, at large. No, and a beautiful, beautiful magical practitioner and gifted person. What do you think your idea of some of this is? Do you have a bigger picture?
Well, what I feel is that there's something about mass consciousness, and there are entire swaths of certain religious people whom beg the universe every day for the end of the world. They do so because they've been told this is the way that it has to be, and number two, it's been a very long time, and so the anxiety builds and builds and builds. And oftentimes with certain religious people, they have to make themselves right. So they have to say, see, I was right. My book was right. I was right. Because the thought of death is less scary to them than being wrong.
Yeah. Wow, isn't that scary? So yeah, it's coming out of the woodwork. And this really can bring out the worst in everybody, and it has, but it can bring out the best in everybody, and it has.
I was in the market the other day. I waited until the very last minute, the very last second to go out and stock up, because I thought, I'm not going to add to the panic. And then I realized, well, as I told you out in the lobby, I drink a lot of tea with goat milk, and I knew that if I didn't go now, that I would not have any goat milk. So I bought 3 containers of goat milk, just little cartons. I mean, they're the cartons of goat milk for my tea. And I'm dreading the fact that I'm down now to 1.5, and I have to go back to the market and face that crowd. But mostly, you know, after my visit, I went and sat in the car for about half an hour and just cried. It was so overwhelming. The tension was so thick I could almost cut it with a knife. Though people were really gracious to me that day. They were so polite, and people smiled. Oh, I like that, says one lady. Oh, you look great. I see her again. Oh, you still look so great. And then people complimenting my shoes and complimenting it. And then someone came up and from behind and said, are you from Ghost Adventures? And I said, yes, I was on the show. She said, could my son take a picture? He's such a big fan. He watches, and I think the son may have been a little autistic. He was in his teen years, but he was so excited to get the picture. And everyone was just so polite. It was a long line, a long wait, but everyone was so polite and so gracious. There were some that had hordes of things, and there were some with masks, but I cried over the fear.
Yeah. See, I think it's a shakeup. And you are such a gentleman. By the way, that's what he is. He is the gentleman psychic. That's how you can find him. You can look him up.
GentlemanPsychic.com.
And every cell in his body is a gentleman.
You're very kind.
And we will talk about Ghost Adventures next, because that is one thing that we had together, and it was like one of the best episodes.
It was.
But just to end this silly Corona thing, which isn't silly, but let's look at it a little silly. Bring in some levity somewhere. Bring in some laughter somewhere.
Well, I have an idea. I have a really great idea, because you know I am a gentleman. That's my theme. So I've heard that the coronavirus can live for 20 hours, 3 days, whatever, on some surfaces. So all of your money is contaminated. You can send it to me. I will cleanse it. I will purify it for you, and then I will dispose of it. Don't you worry.
He's so good. I love that. Yeah, I think it's about a consciousness shift. I think whatever the universe, God, whatever words anybody wants to use for whatever higher power they think there is, I think it's energy. But I think that we needed a shakeup. We have gotten, again, so unconscious, so complacent, so sheep-like, not even aware of who we are, what we're doing, asleep at the wheel, words I always use, you know, asleep, automatic pilot, by rote.
And that's what I tell people. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm so sorry. That's what I tell people too, is the first thing that one of my big proponents is I tell people, turn off the radio.
Yeah.
I mean, not this one. not this one, not this. But when you're
I love that. We should put that on as one of our little blurbs. Turn off the radio and listen to the Witching Hour.
Yes. Well, I mean, the point is that in Los Angeles, we are lucky because we can go 10 miles and it can take 2 hours.
Yeah.
So instead of cursing the person in front of you for cutting you off or going too slowly or cursing this or cursing and turning up the music to drown out your own thoughts, turn it down, turn it off, put your phone in the back seat. The text can wait, the Facebook messages can wait. Just reconnect with your own thoughts.
Yeah, that's what I think it's about. Again, so now this, stay in the house kind of thing, that self-isolation, almost forcing us. I mean, not everybody will, of course. Some people are just going to get high, start eating, start drinking, and watch either endless scary news broadcasts or reruns of whatever.
Yes.
Even they took away sports from sports people. I just go, there is a big picture here. They're going to almost force us to think, to contemplate, to what do I believe in? What is important to me? There's not a right or wrong answer to that, but just think about it for once.
Well, and things come in cycles too, as you well know. In 1917, there was an influenza that killed a lot of people, and then again in 1920. Ironically, one of the number one films this year was 1917, which is 2020. It's 100 years later.
Wow.
In 1820, there was a pandemic that killed in 1720. So things come in cycles. They come in waves, and the virus is the wonderful thing about what we can learn from a virus is that it mutates itself to the environment so that it can survive. And when we look at humanity, when we look at the damage that humans are doing and continue to do to the environment, the one thing that we can learn from a virus is that we can adapt and we can grow and we can change and we can stop things that are causing harm.
Right, and which we're doing now and see what we do. So, so I think, again, we'll look back and hopefully we'll look back and much more good will come out of it than negative. That's my hope. So anyway, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. You are listening to The Witching Hour with Patti Negris and my today's very, very special guest, Richard-Lael Lillard. We'll be right back.
Perfect. Okay, we're marked. Okay. Take a beat. Good to go. Good.
Marvelous.
We're back in 3, 2.
Welcome back to The Witching Hour. Speaking of ghost adventures, I think I first met you on a radio show, mutual friend,
Yes.
and then the second big time was we doing a seance at your house. And I must tell you, Richard-Lael has the most amazing house I've ever seen. If I could move into any house on the entire planet, it would be his. It's Victorian, top to bottom, elegance, beauty, richness. He even has his own seance room.
I do. It's in the turret. It's a tower room, and I have my seance room, and above my seance table is a portrait of me as the devil.
Yes.
Which I do want to tell you briefly to the listeners. People go, why are you dressed like that? Why? And for not to dispel any of the magic behind it, but I'm going to tell you that years ago I worked with the public, and I would work mostly on donations, and people would say, "Oh, well, I want to, but I don't have any money." And I would say, "You can have one." And then I would joke, "In exchange for your immortal soul." So about 3 years ago, I was going out for the evening. I was just bored, and I had these devil horns. I put them on. My friend said, "That is fabulous. You have to let me take your picture." And I went, "No, it's silly. It's really silly." She says, "No, you'll love this picture. Let me take it." And I went, "Okay, fine." She took my picture, and I did like it, and then I altered it to look like a painting, and I put it on my business cards, because then it was funny. "Certainly, I'll give you a free one in exchange for your immortal soul." Because then it's funny, right? So I have these business cards with my portrait as the devil, and then about a year ago, I created in miniature form the Addams family, the mansion, interior and exterior. So in the interior, I was looking for paintings for the Addams family, and there was one of my cards. It just so happened to be the perfect size to fit in the hallway. And then about 3 months went by, and I thought, I'm going to have a portrait commissioned. and I found this beautiful general 18th century beautiful picture. But at this point, I had gone from Apple to Android, which is never recommended. And then I didn't have any of my editing software, so I didn't know how to do it. So I told these people, I said, just paint this picture, put my head on it. They sent me back the mock-up. My face was on it, but it was tiny and crooked. And they said, let me, if you like it, we can start painting today. And I went, no, I hate it. I hate everything I hate it. So I sent them this picture. It was on my phone, and I went, just paint this because I like it already. I know that I like it. So ironically, I created it in the small form, in the miniature, and then I created it in real life. So it hangs above my seance table, and people come in and they go, "Oh, the devil!" But it's really silly. It's just silly.
But it adds to all your mystique and drama and beauty. That's what. When I first met you, you are a magical practitioner.
Yes,
you
I
are.
am.
You are a cultist. You are all sorts of wonderful things, as am I. And again, many of you know, I do a lot of episodes of Ghost Adventures, and they're always looking for really interesting haunted houses. You have to have a haunted house.
It's a haunted house.
But after that first seance, and I'm seeing what's going on, I couldn't wait. I called Zach. I'm going, oh my God, you are going to love this person. You are going to love this house. And I just knew that who you are, Richard-Lael, and your home, because so many of the houses they go into are, not the nicest, not the highest end, it's like, it's a little scary. I knew that he would just fall in love with yours.
And he did. He walked in and he says, I love this. It reminds me of my museum. And for those of you who have been to his museum in Vegas, mm-hmm. It is rather similar.
It is rather similar. With, again, beautiful, crowded in the good sense of the word crowded.
Victorian clutter.
I love that. I have that. My dream, I have a wannabe Victorian clutter house, but it needs more work. But I'm going to hire you.
It's beautiful.
No, people walk in and go, oh, my house looks different too, like yours does, but it's on this. It doesn't fit the scale on yours at all. One day, I'm dragging you in and just say, fix it, Richard-Lael. Fix it. But anyway, so tell me about your little experience. What was like? Because everybody always wants to know what the Ghost Adventures experience like. What do you think, Zach and Aaron and Billy?
Well, I have to admit, I had not seen the show for probably a decade. Yeah. Right, I watched some of the first episodes, and then I don't have a television, and I don't watch TV. I watch a lot of music on YouTube, mostly classical. I don't watch TV. And Zach comes in. He was very polite. I recognize Zach, and he says, "Wow, this is beautiful." He says to everyone, "These things are old. If you have to move something, pick it up. Don't drag it," which was very respectful. I was honored by that. And then we went into the seance. They asked me to do a seance for them. They were very polite the entire time. I didn't know any of them because I hadn't seen the show, so I didn't know their names. And we're sitting there doing the seance with the Ouija board, and some question was asked about who do you want to speak with, or who is here, or something. It said G-O-D, and it paused, and then it went to W-I-N. And Aaron goes, his eyes as big as saucers, "My name is Goodwin. Does it want to talk to me?" Yes, actually, it does. It was so funny.
Yeah, that is great. Well, it's so funny. When I first did it, the show, I hadn't watched it in a long time either. It was not a regular on the show. And I remember seeing Jay and Billy go, "Oh, you guys are the new guys." He's like, "We've been on it for like 10 years." But they were the sidekicks in the back when Nick was on the show. It was the three of them, and they were the two techs. But then they brought in, they're like, "Oh, sorry." But I think it's kind of good to go in that way. We don't have an expectations. Just like when I do mediumship work or seances with people, I don't want to know their story. When I do paranormal, I don't want that to even be influenced. No. I don't want to have...
Well, because it's so easy, especially people have a tendency to either want to really believe a psychic or really disbelieve.
Yeah.
And there are, unfortunately, a lot of frauds. There was an experiment done in Texas where they had taken this building, created an entire fictitious background, put it on a web page, and then the people that would come through would say, "Oh, I sense this man named," and they went, "Well, that was made up."
Yeah.
So it's easy to be influenced, and so that's why as myself and you, I know we don't want to know. Tell me afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. And I must say, I can't speak for all the other paranormal shows. They're totally legit with that.
Yes.
Zach, the crew, they will have me practically locked in the trunk of a car to not know what's going on. There is an address, and you go to the address. They don't tell me what happened there, whether it's a seance or just walk through and say what happened. I have no idea. And if I do have an idea of the house, they will not have me very much in the episode. Like with yours. I showed up at the door and I told them this is my friend Richard-Lael, and they didn't, they wouldn't. They're so legit. Or like when I did the Black Dahlia house, it wasn't discover what happened here because they knew I knew what happened here. So there's so much in integrity with that. So for everybody who thinks they're not in integrity, just because they're big boisterous boys, they are.
You know, they are. The term is they call them bros online.
Yeah.
Bro, dude, bro. Did you feel that? Did you feel that, bro, dude? Which they are, but the paranormal experiences are real. I have to tell you though, while I was prepping for the seance, they were in the parlor. And they were going over their equipment, and they had things. And I was sitting there with the rum that I was using in the ceremony, and I was meditating on it, and the rum, which is typical for me, the rum started vibrating in the glass. And just as it starts doing this, they hear a recording that says, "Take a drink." And Zach made me laugh so much, I almost lost it right there. He says, "Take a drink of what? Of blood?" And I'm going,
rum. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, no, because again, people don't get it because it is big, but that's what's make it good. But they are legit.
I did 100%.
When I saw the show, I would say, you know, when I first watched it way back when, it's like, who are these, you know, guys in tight t-shirts, big macho guys going, okay, come on, go show it to me, and then a pin drops and they ran like little girls.
I know.
Yeah. Like our producer Q.
Q says he would too.
We got to get him to a seance or something with both of us, Richard-Lael.
Q,
yeah.
I have a seance room. You have to come. I have a quart and a half of goat milk. We can have some tea.
Yes.
You can come over. I have rum.
We'll maybe.
We'll get you there. But one of us on each side. No, because they are. It's their passion. It's 100% real. They're like 8-year-old kids, and it's true. It's like I'm jumping in 120% commitment. So if it seems big, that's why it's good. And people who don't quite get it, yes, there's editing. Yes, they've taken many days of filming into the best hour, and it's television, but it's legit. It is absolutely
completely
legit.
They actually ended up at my house. I had finished up the seance around 10:30 I think in the evening, and I was just getting ready to go to the hotel because they have you on lockdown and everyone who's in the house has to go. And Zach came out and he says, frankly, he said, you can go to the hotel, but if I were you, I would just stay because it's very active. We're going to stay a few more hours. It's very active.
Yeah. And
I went, okay.
Yeah, they don't need to sit around, wait for something to happen. It's going to be active. Yeah. Yeah. Plus Pasadena, where you live, I can say that is very bad with filming.
Yes. Pasadena is notorious for filming. They have a lot of restrictions.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why.
But they're a little city and they can, I guess, because I had suggested another house in Pasadena and they just went, nope. What? Nope.
Yeah, it won't. I will tell you though, strangely enough, and maybe this is why Pasadena does not allow such filming, is because there are a number of Victorian homes. Mm-hmm. It's a very old town, and it's of course it's beautiful. I love Pasadena, but there's so much energy. There is, of course, Jack Parsons lived down the street from me. Well, down 5 minutes away, maybe 10. Jack Parsons lived there. Was friends with Aleister Crowley. The Colorado Street Bridge, known as Suicide Bridge. The Devil's Head Dam is there. There's a lot of energy in that area.
Yes, there is. It's a charged area, so it would be a perfect place for paranormal shows.
Which is why I think maybe the city says, nope,
Yeah, exactly. No, they don't want because they have a nice, clean, squeaky, very.
They want it to be. They want everyone to think that Pasadena is this perfect little ghost-free place, and it isn't. It's old, and there's energy.
So, Richard-Lael, how did you become who you are? How did you know you have a gift? Was that from young? Did you develop
Well,
it?
I've always known. I've always known things. One of my favorite stories was a hard time in my mother's life when I was 4, just about to be 5. My father had French polio, Guillain-Barré, and he slipped into a coma, and they were doing everything they could, but he slipped into a coma. And people would ask me, they would say, "What do you want for your birthday?" And I said, "My father is coming home for my birthday." And everyone would go, "Oh, bless. Oh, poor thing, he doesn't know. Well, my father actually ended up by being pronounced dead in the hospital. My father, in later years, would retell the story, and he would say he was cognitive the entire time, and he heard the doctor say, "We've done everything we could do. Mark the time of death,
Wow.
notify the family, cover him up the sheet." Everyone left except the one nurse who was filling out the paperwork. She went to go to leave the door. My father heard her footsteps. Went to leave the door, and my father went, which it's not uncommon for the recently deceased to expel gases. And so, for some reason, she stopped. She walked all the way back to my father's bedside and picked up the corner of the sheet. And for the first time in 3 months, my father sat up in the bed and said, "How are you?" So the woman screamed. She passed out. The doctor heard the scream, heard the fall, comes running back in, white as a sheet. And he says, what happened? And my father, as he always did, he had this big handlebar mustache. And he would say, "I don't know, Doc, I just spoke to her and she fell out on the floor." And the doctor said, "Let me tell you something. If a corpse had raised out of bed and talked to you, you'd pass out too." So my father came home in a wheelchair the day and the night before my 5th birthday. And people said, "Well, aren't you excited? Your daddy came home." And I looked at them puzzled, and I said, "Well, I knew he was going to." And I remember saying, "And I'll have him for 20 more years, a little more, but 20 more years." 20 years later, he died the day and the night after my birthday.
Wow, that's
My 25th birthday.
amazing.
So that I knew things. On sort of a negative, when I knew things. This one, I was about 30 when I remembered what had happened. When I was a kid, I was about 13. My parents took in foster children, and mind you, these kids came from a broken home, and the one who was a year older than me delighted in tormenting and teasing me every single day, every way that he could. And I looked at him and I said, "You're going to regret that, because I'm going to live in Hollywood, California. I'm going to be in film and television. And this is what I felt guilty over for a very long time." I said, "And you are going to die in a car accident. No, your head's going to be cut off, but don't worry, it's not going to happen until you're 25. And then I found out years later, when I was about 30, that when he was 25, he was coming home in the rain on his motorcycle. Someone ran a red light. The motorcycle flipped into the air and severed his head. And I felt really bad about that for a very long time. And my mother, who's Native American, I said, "Mother, I feel like maybe I caused this. Did I curse him?" She says, "No." She said, "You saw it. You didn't cause it. You saw it." And now I would use a lot more tact. I would never do that. But
it's different. But that's pretty amazing. I mean, I was gifted from a little kid too, and I saw spirits, but I never did stuff like that. That's good. That is really good. But yeah, you didn't cause it. You would, of course, do it with more tact and diplomacy now, because we have free will. Just be careful in 20 years that you don't,
Well, and I've when I have had people who've come to me, and I've seen, especially if it's self-harm, I get them aside and I say, "Look, I know what you're going through. I know you feel like there's no hope. I know it feels like nobody pays attention to you. I know what is going on. Your life has meaning, and I, for one, am enriched that you are here with me today. So that's how I do it now. But you know, at 13, what do you do? I don't know.
Right.
I was just talking. I didn't know.
I think but that was perfect. And again, you were a kid and you didn't cause it, so good you let go of that guilt. She was right. But no, that's one of my pet peeves actually when psychics because as we know that there's so many scam artists,
Yes.
and for every one good and legitimate one of us, there's 100,000
At least.
just out this and that, and you got to curse and fear based. I always say anything fear based or control based, run.
No, absolutely.
Fear based or control based, run. Because and anybody who says this is going to happen, I think too, you've just taken away their free will.
Absolutely.
And you may have caused them to create it in their head. Like I could say, when you walk out the door, a bird's gonna poop on your head. I am such a good psychic. I know when you're gonna walk out that door. I know when the bird's gonna fly over. I know when the bird's gonna poop. But if I say that as such a definitive, they're gonna be looking up and they're gonna hit in the face with a bird.
Sure.
But if you go, be careful going out that door, that you don't want a bird to poop on your head, they put up an umbrella. They go out the back door. They don't leave. The bird doesn't poop on your head.
And
you see pathways.
I tell people this about what I do, is that it is about perspective, and nothing is absolutely definite. These are possibilities that I am seeing, and only possibilities.
Yes.
So what I will say is, for instance, imagine if you are in New York City and you're watching Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade on the street. The only thing you can see is this marching band, this balloon, and the tail end of that float. You don't know what's coming next. You don't know where these are going. You have no idea. But simultaneously, you're taken into the air in a helicopter high above the city. Now you can see the entire parade route. However, it doesn't mean that this is the way that it is going to be. A marching band could decide, I'm going to turn right instead of left. Will it happen? Probably not, but it could happen. The Grand Marshal could have a heart attack. The Barney balloon, as it was way back 25 years ago or so, the Barney balloon was punctured and removed from... But from that perspective, in that time, it looks like this is the way it's going to continue.
That's beautiful. I love that analogy. That is very good.
Thank you.
So Richard, how do people find you?
Well, you can find me at Richard-Lael Lillard on Facebook, Instagram.
Did I?
You did.
I did.
Okay.
Oh my God! I saw
okay.
your face.
It's okay.
Richard-Lael. Oh my God.
Like I said, it's a relatively recent development, so that is fine.
Okay.
You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Richard-Lael Lillard. You can also find me under the hashtag The Gentleman Psychic, which is also on YouTube, which is The Gentleman Psychic or Richard-Lael Lillard. And for those of you who cannot spell it, it is a lot of L's. It is a lot of vowels. So it's Richard, Richard, Lael, L, Lael. And if you look for Richard-Lael, I have never seen another Richard-Lael, so that should pop right up.
I can't believe I did that because I didn't even hear it until I saw your face. Like, she can't get it right. I am so sorry.
Right.
So, but you guys should follow him because Richard-Lael does amazing things like storytelling by candlelight.
I do.
Oh, he's like no one you know in your world, and everybody needs a little Richard-Lael in their life. Whatever you call him.
I know. Oh, I love my friend Patti. I love Patti.
Well, we will be right back. You are listening to The Witching Hour with Patti Negri and my very special guest, Richard-Lael Lillard. Stay tuned.
Mark? Perfect. So we're gonna do the magic part. That's perfect.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
I was getting ready to cough.
Oh.
We're still running.
Okay.